Okay, welcome back. Today we're going to talk about currency rate, and so not all countries have the same currency, obviously, right? So we have the Canadian dollar, Americans have the American dollar, Australia has the Australian dollar, Great Britain has the British pound, Europe has the euro. So there's different currencies all throughout the world. Japan has the Japanese yen. So the rate of exchange when you're changing from one unit to another is the amount of money that it's worth from going from one currency to another. The important thing to note too is that your exchange rate, they change daily. They're not consistent. So I'll give you an example here. A couple of years ago, the Canadian dollar was worth more than the U.S. dollar, so my wife and I ended up planning a trip down to the States. So when we planned our trip, it was the Canadian dollar would get us $1.10 U.S. So we planned our trip, blah blah blah, and then when it came time for our trip, um, the Canadian dollar was actually a little bit less than the American dollar, so it ended up costing us a little bit more than we thought it would. So they change daily, and so we have to be aware of that. But what we're going to do is we're going to use the table that's on page 172 in your work text. And I'm just going to draw kind of a rough example of what the table looks like here. So if you look at the table, you've got this one here is blank, and then we've got the Canadian dollar, and then we've got the US dollar, and then we've got the euro, right, and then here we've got the Canadian dollar. So you can see the one in the top left, it's kind of blank. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to try to help you out a little bit. So have. So this top column is the currency that you currently have. And then the one along the outer left is the currency that you want. And so then you would use that. So for example, I want to know what $2,000 Canadian would be in the Chinese yuan. So when I look at the Canadian dollar, so I'm going to look here and I'm going to go down. I'm going to find out what the value is for the Chinese yuan, which is 6.602. So I'm going to take that, multiply it by my $2,000 Canadian that Danielle has. So 6.602 times 2,000. So she'll end up with 13,204 wants. And I'm not even going to try that symbol. Okay? Same thing with Japanese yen. I'm going to start here. So I have my Canadian dollar, and I want to go down. I want to find out what that's going to be in Japanese yen. So Japanese yen is 90.198. So 90.198. Times that by the 2,000 Canadian that I already have. So 90.198 times 2,000. 180,396. Make you feel rich, right? I remember when I was about your age, I was living in Europe, and we went to Italy. At that time, the euro wasn't around, and Italy had their own currency. And so, for example, one Canadian dollar was worth 1,000 Italian. I can't remember what the currency was. So, like, prices were ridiculous. So, if I wanted to buy like a Coca-Cola, it would cost me 5,000 libras, let's say, and which was like $5. But like 5,000 was the number you would actually see on the can of Coke. So it's kind of weird. Okay, so same thing. Euros. So I'm going to go down. So here's my chart. I'm going to go start. Here's my Canadian dollar. I'm going to go down until I find what the euro is, which is 0.676. Times that by the $2,000 that I do have. So $1,352. So my $2,000 is going to give me 1,352 euros. All right. Now Danielle's planning a trip. Um, she has 420 euros. How many Mexican pesos is this amount? So, again, I'm going to go along. She has euros. And when she goes down to a Mexican peso, it is 18.265. She multiplies that by 200 or 420. So 7,671 and 30 pesos. All right. So let's try that out. So what you do on page 173, numbers 1 to 10, working with converting currency. It takes some practice, and just think of that table. Remember, you find the currency you want up at the top, and then you go down. Okay, good job, folks.